Let me start by asking you a question that might be uncomfortable. Do you really have the keys to unlock the life you want? Or are you standing outside the door hoping it will swing open for you? Most people, and I mean the vast majority, are carrying around a key ring with just one or two keys on it. They can open a few small doors, maybe a steady paycheck, maybe a comfortable routine. But when it comes to the doors that lead to the life they truly dream of, they're locked out. And deep down, they know it. Now, here's the thing about the 1%. They didn't find some magic master key lying on the ground. They built their key ring, one key at a time, through discipline, value creation, and a set of laws that they've made non-negotiable in their lives. You don't get whatever you want simply because you wish for it, or because you're a good person, or because you've been through hardship and think the universe owes you something. You get whatever you want because you have prepared yourself to earn it, to sustain it, and to multiply it. And preparation is not an event, it's a lifestyle. The 1% understand that the world responds to value, not intention. It rewards discipline, not desire. And so they live by a code most people don't even know exists, let alone follow. Now here's where I want to challenge you. If you're not getting the results you want, it's not because the opportunity doesn't exist. It's because your current keys don't fit the locks that lead to your next level. And if that's true, the solution isn't to wish the locks were different or to complain about the people who already have the keys. The solution is to build your own set. That means learning the laws the 1% live by and then having the courage to obey them consistently, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's not popular, even when no one is watching. Picture it this way. There are two kinds of people in life. Those who stand at locked doors, hoping someone else will open them, and those who arrive with the exact key they need and walk right in. The difference isn't fate. The difference is preparation. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to hand you the blueprint to start building your own key ring, law by law, discipline by discipline. But you have to decide now whether you'll just listen or whether you'll take these keys and put them on your own ring. So, if you've ever looked at the 1% and wondered, how do they always seem to get what they want? How do they keep winning? Over and over again. Stay with me. We're about to unlock their laws. And when you understand them, you'll realize they've been available to you all along. The only question is, will you start using them? If you want to understand how the 1% get whatever they want, you must start with the single equation that governs their success. Value multiplied by discipline equals influence. This is not motivational fluff. This is a law as real and predictable as gravity. The 1% can secure the opportunities, the deals, the positions, the lifestyles they desire, because they have mastered two elements most people treat as optional. First, they've built disproportionate value in the marketplace. They've made themselves so skilled, so resourceful, so capable of solving important problems that their presence commands attention and reward. Second, they've matched that value with an unshakable level of discipline, the ability to act consistently and decisively, regardless of moods, distractions, or circumstances. Together, these two form influence. And influence is the currency that buys results in every area of life. Value without discipline is wasted potential. You've seen people like this talented, intelligent, even brilliant in some areas, but inconsistent. They have flashes of excellence, but they can't be counted on. Their value leaks away because no one can trust that they'll show up with it tomorrow. Discipline without value, on the other hand, is like pedaling a bike as hard as you can in the wrong gear you're working, but you're not moving toward anything significant. The 1% never separate the two. They are constantly raising their value and tightening their discipline, knowing that influence grows only when both sides of the equation rise together. This principle is as old as the parable of the talents. The master gave resources to his servants not equally, but according to their ability. The ones who multiplied what they were given were rewarded with more. The one who buried his gift out of fear lost even what he had. That story isn't just about money. It's about capacity. Increase your value. Match it with disciplined action, and your capacity grows. And with that growth comes greater influence, the power to get things done, to shape your environment, to open doors for yourself and for others. Imagine a scale. On one side is your value, your skills, your knowledge, your experience, your ability to create results. On the other side is your discipline, your consistency, your follow-through, your reliability. If one side outweighs the other, the scale tips and your influence is unstable. The 1% keep both sides rising together so the balance is strong. They're not just good at what they do, they're good at showing up and delivering it, day after day, year after year, until they've built a reputation so solid that opportunities seek them out. This is why the average person's results often feel like a struggle. They may focus on working hard, but if they're not deliberately raising their value, they're spinning their wheels. Or they might invest heavily in learning new skills but lack the discipline to apply them consistently, so those skills never turn into influence. The 1% refuse to let that happen. They treat both value and discipline as daily responsibilities, not occasional efforts. From this moment on, I want you to start seeing your own life through this equation. Ask yourself daily, what am I doing to raise my value? What am I doing to strengthen my discipline? Because if you will commit to raising both, your influence will grow. And when your influence grows, getting what you want stops being a matter of chance and starts being a matter of design. One of the most dangerous beliefs you can hold about success is that it's all about luck, that the people in the top 1% just happen to be in the right place at the right time, born into the right family, or struck gold by accident. This belief is seductive because it lets you off the hook. If it's all luck, then you don't have to change. You can stay where you are, comfort yourself with the idea that you were simply unlucky, and never confront the disciplines you've been avoiding. But here's the truth, the 1% know. Luck might open a door, but only preparation and discipline allow you to walk through it and stay inside. Think of life like the wind. The same wind blows on us all, the wind of opportunity, the wind of challenge, the wind of change. Some people see that wind and curse it. Some complain that it's too strong, and others stand still waiting for it to shift in their favor. But the 1%, they've learned to set their sails. They don't control the wind, but they control how they respond to it. And because they've learned the skill of navigation, the discipline of positioning themselves, the awareness to recognize opportunity, the value to capitalize on it, they arrive at destinations others only dream about. I've seen it time and again. Two people can be offered the exact same opportunity, a new role, a business chance, an introduction to someone influential. One takes it and runs with it, multiplying its value, turning it into something lasting. The other fumbles it, lets it slip away, or treats it casually, and it vanishes. The difference isn't the opportunity itself. It's the preparation that came before. The 1% live in a constant state of readiness. So when the wind shifts, they're not scrambling to figure out what to do. They're already moving. There's a reason the scripture says, be ready in season and out of season. You don't know when the opportunity will present itself, but you do know that if you're not ready, it will pass you by. This is why the 1% work on themselves relentlessly. They're adding keys to their keyring every day, so that when a locked door appears, they don't stand there wondering how to get in. They already have the key in hand. So no, it's not all luck. Luck is a visitor. It comes and goes. Preparation is a resident. It stays with you. And when preparation meets opportunity, outsiders call it luck. Insiders know it's the natural result of obeying the laws, raising your value, maintaining discipline, and positioning yourself where opportunity can find you. The wind will blow for you just as it blows for everyone else. The only question is whether you'll have your sails ready when it does. Another myth that keeps people locked out of the results they want is the idea that the 1% somehow coast their way to success, that once they reach a certain level, they sit back, put their feet up, and let the world deliver everything to them on a silver platter. It's a comforting picture for those on the outside looking in, because it suggests that the hard work is only for the people climbing, not for those at the top. But I can tell you from decades of observation and experience that picture is a fantasy. The truth is, the 1% often work harder than anyone else, not necessarily in raw hours or physical exertion, but in the intensity, focus, and responsibility they bring to everything they do. What most people miss is the years, sometimes decades, of work that came before the visible success. We love the phrase overnight success, but we rarely see the 10 or 20 years that led up to that night. Those years are filled with late nights, early mornings, countless failures, risks that could have wiped them out, and the relentless repetition of the fundamentals until they became second nature. By the time the public notices them, they've been grinding in the shadows for so long that discipline is simply who they are. And here's the part that really separates them from the average person. They don't stop once they've made it. In fact, in many cases, they raise their standards. They understand that maintaining success requires as much energy, creativity, and discipline as building it in the first place. sometimes more. Because now, they're not just responsible for their own results. They're responsible for the people, systems, and opportunities that depend on them. They carry the weight of stewardship, knowing that the same laws that got them here must be followed to stay here. I've met people who thought they could take shortcuts once they reached a certain level. They relaxed their habits, stopped learning, ignored the disciplines that built their influence. And inevitably, the erosion began. The 1% don't make that mistake. They keep building, keep sharpening, keep showing up fully, because they know that the moment you start coasting, momentum shifts. And in life, when momentum shifts, it's rarely in your favor. Think of it like tending a fire. It takes effort to get the flames going, but once it's burning, you can't just walk away. If you want it to keep producing heat, you must keep adding fuel, adjusting the wood, protecting it from the wind. The fire doesn't care how hard you worked yesterday. It needs today's attention. Success is the same way. The 1% respect that truth, and they live accordingly. So the next time you're tempted to believe that those at the top are simply coasting, remember this. The higher you climb, the more discipline it takes to stay there. The 1% aren't avoiding hard work. They've mastered it, refined it, and aligned it so tightly with their goals that it no longer feels like a burden. It's simply how they live. And if you want what they have, you'll have to live that way too. The first law the 1% live by, and one that separates them from almost everyone else, is clarity of vision. They know exactly what they want, why they want it, and what it will take to get it. Not in vague terms like, I want to be successful, or I'd like to have more money, but in precise, measurable, vividly imagined detail. They can describe their desired outcome as clearly as an architect can describe a finished building. And that clarity is not an accident. It is the product of deliberate thought, written goals, and constant review. The average person drifts through life with a fuzzy picture of the future. They may have wishes, dreams, or even some goals written down once upon a time, but they don't look at them daily. They don't refine them. They don't make their vision so clear that it becomes a filter for every decision they make. The 1% do. They live with their vision in front of them. They write the vision and make it plain, as the scripture instructs, so that every step they take is in alignment with it. When opportunities appear, they can quickly decide whether to seize them or pass, because they know exactly where they're headed and whether that opportunity fits the plan. Think of the difference between a sniper and someone firing randomly into the dark. The sniper has a target, a clear line of sight, and a steady hand. Every movement is intentional. Every adjustment serves a purpose. The one shooting into the dark might fire hundreds of rounds, but without a clear target, all that energy and ammunition are wasted. The 1% live like snipers, patient, precise, and purposeful, because they have locked onto their target before they take aim. Clarity of vision gives power to discipline. When you know exactly what you're aiming for, it becomes easier to say no to distractions, to endure short-term discomfort, and to make sacrifices that others won't. Without vision, discipline feels like drudgery. With vision, discipline feels like progress. You can get up early, stay late, study harder, and push through resistance because you're not just working hard, you're moving towards something specific that matters deeply to you. And here's the crucial point. Vision is not something you set once and forget. The 1% revisit it daily. They review it in the morning to set their focus. They measure their actions against it during the day. They reflect on it at night to see whether they stayed on course. This constant connection to the vision keeps it alive and prevents it from being buried under the noise of daily life. If you want to live by this law, you must make your vision visible. Write it down. Break it into clear milestones. Put it somewhere you will see it every day, not tucked away in a drawer, but in your line of sight, where it can challenge and inspire you. Let it become the North Star by which you navigate every decision. Because once your vision is clear, the path to getting what you want stops being a mystery. It becomes a matter of consistent execution. And that is a game the 1% know how to win. If clarity of vision is the compass that tells you where to go, ruthless control of time is the discipline that ensures you actually get there. The 1% understands something the average person overlooks. Time is the most valuable currency in existence. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose possessions and replace them. But the hour you lose today is gone forever. And because they understand this truth, the 1% treat their time with a level of respect and protection that most people reserve only for their most precious possessions. They guard their hours like gold in a vault. Every meeting, every conversation, every commitment is measured against their vision and weighed for its true value. If it moves them closer to their goals, they give it their full attention. If it doesn't, they say no, politely, firmly, and without guilt. This is not arrogance. It is stewardship. Just as a wise steward protects and multiplies the resources entrusted to him, the 1% protect and multiply their hours because they know their entire life is built in those increments of time. The average person allows their calendar to be filled by other people's priorities. They start their day checking messages, responding to every demand, and leaving the most important work for later, a time that rarely comes. The 1% reverse that order. They start their day with their highest value activities. They schedule time for learning, for creating, for strategic thinking, and they defend that time from interruptions as fiercely as if it were $1 million asset, because to them, it is. Think of your day like a jar. The 1% put the big rocks in first, the major, mission-critical tasks, and then fill the spaces with smaller pebbles and sand. The average person fills the jar with sand, first trivial tasks, distractions, low-value commitments, and then wonders why there's no room for the big rocks. This one habit, repeated daily, creates an enormous gap in results over time. Ruthless control of time is not about becoming a robot or living without rest. In fact, the 1% schedule their rest, their exercise, their family time, because they know those are investments in their long-term performance. What they do not do is drift. They do not give hours away casually. They do not treat time as if it were free. Every minute is accounted for, whether it is spent on work, on rest, or on renewal. If you want to live by this law, you must become intentional with your calendar. Begin each week by blocking out time for the things that matter most. Your vision-driving work, your learning, your health, your relationships. Then let everything else fight for the leftover space. And here's the real challenge. Enforce those blocks. Treat them as sacred. Because until you respect your own time enough to protect it, no one else will. Once the 1% have established clarity of vision and mastered control over their time, they turn their attention to something that multiplies their influence in every arena, building high-value skills. They understand that the marketplace rewards value, and value is determined not just by effort, but by rarity, relevance, and impact. If your skills are common, easily replaced, or irrelevant to solving meaningful problems, you will be paid and respected accordingly, which is to say, not much. But if your skills are rare, highly relevant, and capable of producing significant results for others, your value rises, and with it, your ability to get what you want. Think of your abilities as the tools in a master craftsman's kit. The amateur may have a handful of generic tools, a hammer, a wrench, a few screwdrivers, and with those, they can do basic, low-paying work. But the master has an array of specialized instruments, each designed for precision, each capable of doing something few others can. Those tools weren't gathered overnight. They were chosen carefully, acquired intentionally, and sharpened through years of use. That's exactly how the 1% approach their skill set. They don't dabble. They don't collect skills for show. They invest in the ones that will produce the greatest return over time. The 1% are perpetual learners. They know their industry inside and out, but they also learn skills that transfer across industries: communication, leadership, negotiation, strategic thinking, emotional intelligence. They never assume they've arrived just because they're good at what they do now. They're looking ahead to what will be valuable 5, 10, even 20 years from today. And they start building those skills before the masses realize they'll be needed. That foresight puts them ahead of the curve, often by years, and allows them to step into opportunities others aren't prepared for. This is where most people fall short. They stop learning the moment their job feels secure or when their income reaches a comfortable level. But the problem is, the world keeps moving. Technology changes, markets shift, new problems emerge, and when that happens, those who haven't upgraded their skills get left behind. The 1% refuse to let that happen. They are always sharpening their tools because they know dull tools don't just slow you down, they can cost you everything. Here's the theological layer. To whom much is given, much is required. If you've been given the time, the health, and the opportunity to grow, it is your responsibility to increase your capacity. Just like the servant in the parable of the talents who doubled what he was given, you are expected to multiply your abilities, not bury them in the ground out of fear or complacency. If you want to live by this law, begin by identifying which skills will have the highest impact on your vision. Then commit to becoming exceptional at them. Schedule learning into your week. Seek mentors who are masters of those skills. Invest money in courses, books, and experiences that stretch you. And don't just acquire the skill, practice it until it becomes part of you. Because once your skills reach a level where they can't be ignored, you will discover something powerful. Doors open faster, negotiations tilt in your favor, and the phrase getting what you want becomes less about chasing and more about choosing. If building high-value skills is about increasing your personal capacity, mastering leverage is about multiplying that capacity far beyond what you could accomplish on your own. The 1% understand that no matter how talented, disciplined, or intelligent you are, there are limits to what you can achieve with only your own 2 hands and 24 hours in a day. To break those limits, they employ leverage, the strategic use of resources, systems, and relationships to produce results that far exceed their individual effort. Think of leverage in the mechanical sense. A lever allows you to move a massive boulder with far less force than lifting it directly. It's not that the person with the lever is stronger, it's that they've positioned themselves to use their strength more effectively. The 1% apply this principle to everything. They leverage money by investing it so it works for them around the clock. They leverage people by building teams, delegating, and creating partnerships that allow each person to operate in their zone of strength. They leverage systems, technology, processes, routines that handle repetitive work so their time can be spent on higher value decisions. The average person often resists leverage because it requires letting go of control, trusting others, or investing upfront resources. They cling to doing everything themselves, convinced it's the only way to ensure quality. But this mindset traps them at a small scale. The 1% see it differently. Leverage is not about doing less work. It's about shifting their work toward the highest and best use of their abilities. By removing themselves from tasks that others can do and often do better, they free themselves to focus on the moves that create exponential returns. There's a spiritual truth here too. Even the greatest leaders in history never acted entirely alone. Moses had Aaron, David had mighty men, Jesus had 12 disciples. The most significant missions have always been carried out through multiplied effort. Stewardship isn't just about managing what's in your own hands. It's about multiplying it by connecting it to the right people, tools, and systems. Mastering leverage requires humility, the humility to admit that you are not the best person to do everything, and the wisdom to identify who or what can do it better. It also requires a willingness to invest in people, in tools, in infrastructure. The 1% don't see these as expenses. They see them as multipliers. They understand that $1 invested in the right system or the right person can come back as $10, $50, or $100 worth of value. 1 hour spent building an automated process can return hundreds of hours over time. If you want to practice this law, start small. Identify one area of your life or work that you can delegate, automate, or systemize. Invest the time and resources to make that change. Then, use the freed up capacity not to rest on your gains, but to focus on something that moves you closer to your vision. Over time, you'll find yourself operating on an entirely different level, not because you've suddenly become superhuman, but because you've learned to multiply yourself. And when you can multiply yourself, getting whatever you want becomes not a matter of possibility, but of inevitability. If there is one law that quietly shapes every other, it is the law of guarding associations. The 1% understand that who you spend time with is not just a matter of preference, it is a matter of destiny. Your closest relationships act like a climate, and you will inevitably grow or wither according to the conditions they create. This is why they are deliberate, even ruthless, about who they allow into their inner circle. They know that influence is contagious, and that proximity to the right people can accelerate your growth, just as proximity to the wrong people can quietly erode it. The theological principle is as old as Proverbs. Iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. The 1% live this truth. They spend time with people who challenge their thinking, who hold them to higher standards, who refuse to let them settle for less than their best. They avoid not out of arrogance, but out of stewardship, relationships that drain energy, feed excuses, or normalize mediocrity. They understand that even if your vision is clear, your time is controlled, your skills are sharp, and your leverage is strong, the wrong associations can pull you off course. Think of a greenhouse. Inside, the temperature, light, and humidity are controlled to create the perfect environment for plants to grow faster, stronger, and healthier than they would in the open field. The 1% build greenhouses for themselves in the form of carefully cultivated networks. They place themselves in rooms where success is normal, where excellence is expected, and where the conversations revolve around solutions instead of complaints. This doesn't just protect their progress, it accelerates it. The average person often underestimates the subtle power of association. They assume they can keep their goals intact while spending most of their time with people who don't share those goals or values. But human nature works against that. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, your standards begin to match those of the people around you. If their expectations are low, yours will start to shrink. If their habits are poor, yours will start to slip. The 1% refuse to take that risk. They make it a discipline to audit their relationships regularly, asking, is this person helping me move toward my vision or away from it? Guarding associations doesn't mean you cut off everyone who isn't wildly successful. It means you are intentional about the influence you allow into your decision-making space. You can still love and respect people without letting them shape your mindset. You can serve others without giving them the power to set your standards. The 1% have mastered this balance. They are generous in connection, but selective in proximity. If you want to live by this law, start by taking inventory of your 5 closest relationships, the ones you spend the most time with, listen to the most, and are most influenced by. Ask yourself honestly, do they inspire me to grow, or do they make it easier to stay the same? Do they speak life into my vision, or do they quietly discourage it? Then, begin seeking out those who live at the standard you aspire to reach. It might take time to earn your place in their circle, but every step toward those associations is a step toward becoming the person who can truly get whatever they want, not by chance, but by design. Now that we've laid out the core laws, the 1% live by clarity of vision, ruthless control of time, building high-value skills, mastering leverage, and guarding associations. It's time to bring them down from the conceptual level and put them into motion. Because knowing these laws is not enough. Admiring them is not enough. Even agreeing with them is not enough. The 1% aren't defined by what they know. They're defined by what they do every single day without fail. And if you want to live at their level, you must weave these principles into the very fabric of your daily routine until they stop feeling like disciplines and start feeling like identity. The first step is to start your day on purpose. Before the noise of the world rushes in, before the demands of other people's agendas find you, you take the first hour for yourself. This is where you revisit your vision, sharpen your clarity, and align your plans with your long-term direction. If you've truly adopted Law 1, this won't be a vague, feel-good exercise. It will be a tactical alignment session where you decide exactly what must be done today to move closer to your goals. Next, you apply Law 2 by defending your prime hours. Identify the time of day when you have your highest energy and deepest focus, and guard it fiercely. During that window, you tackle the high-value tasks that demand your best thinking. No distractions, no low-value busy work. The average person lets the trivial consume their best hours and tries to do their most important work in whatever time is left. The 1% flip that. As you work, Law 3 becomes a constant companion. Every day, set aside time to sharpen or expand one of your high-value skills. This could be reading a book, taking a course, or practicing a technique directly related to your craft. Remember, skills are the raw materials of your value, and value is half the equation for influence. You're not just working in your field, you're working on yourself so that you're more valuable tomorrow than you were today. Law 4, mastering leverage is applied by asking a simple daily question. What can I delegate, automate, or systemize today that will free my time and energy for higher value work? This may mean training a team member, investing in software, or creating a repeatable process for something you've been doing manually. It might take more effort up front, but the payoff in time and scalability will be worth it many times over. And finally, Law 5, guarding associations must be lived intentionally. This means regularly putting yourself in environments that challenge you to think bigger and execute better. It might be joining a mastermind group, attending industry events, or scheduling regular conversations with mentors who are operating at a higher level. It also means limiting time spent with those who normalize mediocrity or who subtly discourage your progress. Think of your day as a field you are planting in. Each morning, you choose which seeds go into the soil. Seeds of clarity, time mastery, skill growth, leverage, and association. You tend them with consistent action, and over time, they produce a harvest so abundant that others will call it luck or talent. But you'll know the truth. It's the inevitable result of living the laws, not occasionally, but daily. We've covered the laws, we've explored the mindset, and we've brought these principles down to the level of daily application. But now comes the point where information must turn into transformation. And that doesn't happen through listening alone. It happens through doing. The 1% didn't rise to where they are because they collected ideas like souvenirs. They rose because they put those ideas into motion immediately, without waiting for perfect timing, without needing all the lights to turn green before they started driving. So here's my challenge to you. Before the day ends, not tomorrow, not next week, not when things settle down, choose one of these laws and implement it right now. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to master all 5 at once. Just choose one and take decisive action on it within the next 24 hours. If it's clarity of vision, sit down and write out your goals in detail tonight. If it's ruthless control of time, block off 2 uninterrupted hours tomorrow for high-value work. If it's building high-value skills, sign up for that course you've been putting off or open that book you've been meaning to study. If it's mastering leverage, identify one task you can delegate or automate today. If it's guarding associations, make one phone call to someone who inspires you or spend less time with someone who drains your energy. The key is speed. The longer you wait, the more likely inertia will set in. And if there's one thing the 1% understand, it's that opportunity has an expiration date. They act while others hesitate. They move while others are still thinking. That's not recklessness. That's recognizing that momentum is a form of currency, and the faster you start, the more momentum you have to work with. Don't underestimate what one law, applied consistently, can do for you. Small hinges swing big doors. One disciplined choice today can set off a chain of events that changes your direction entirely. You may not see the results tomorrow, but you will feel the shift inside the shift from being someone who knows the path to being someone who walks it. And once you've proven to yourself that you can take action on one law, you'll find it easier to add the next and the next until all 5 become a natural part of your daily rhythm. So, decide now. Which law will you practice first? Write it down, commit to it, and act on it before the sun sets today. Because in the end, the difference between the 1% and everyone else is not that they know more, it's that they act on what they know, faster, more consistently, and with greater focus. Follow that pattern, and you won't just learn how the 1% get what they want. You'll start getting what you want, too. We've walked through the laws. We've stripped away the myths. We've seen that the 1% are not magicians, not beneficiaries of some secret cosmic lottery, but men and women who have chosen, day after day, to live by principles that anyone could follow but most won't. And now you stand at a crossroads. On one path, you can let this remain an interesting conversation, a moment of insight that fades into the background noise of your life. On the other path, you can take this as a personal turning point, the moment you decided that these laws would no longer be ideas you admire from afar, but disciplines you live from this day forward. Here's the truth. Nothing changes until you do. The doors you want to open will not swing wide just because you understand the keys exist. They will open because you forge the keys through daily action, through the clarity to know where you're going, the discipline to guard your time, the humility to keep learning, the wisdom to multiply your capacity through leverage, and the courage to surround yourself only with those who push you higher. These are not optional if you want to operate at the level where getting what you want becomes predictable instead of accidental. I want you to picture something. Imagine me handing you a heavy, polished ring with 5 keys on it, one for each law we've covered. They're yours now, not as decoration, not as a token, but as tools. Each time you apply one of these laws, you're sliding the right key into the right lock. Over time, as you get faster at choosing and using them, you'll find that doors which once felt impossible to open will yield easily in your hands. That's the life the 1% live, not because they're lucky, but because they carry their keys and they use them without hesitation. But here's the catch. Keys don't turn themselves. They demand your grip, your effort, your decision to twist and push through resistance. And in life, resistance is always present. You will face days when it feels easier to drift, easier to say yes to distractions, easier to keep company with those who don't challenge you. That's when you must remember this moment when you committed to living differently, not casually. So my charge to you is simple, but not easy. From this day forward, refuse to live by default. Live by design. Let your vision be so clear that every step has purpose. Let your time be so guarded that every hour counts. Let your skills grow so sharp that your value cannot be ignored. Let your leverage work so efficiently that your influence multiplies while you sleep. And let your associations lift you so high that staying small is no longer an option. Do this, And you will not need to envy the 1%. You will join them. And you'll do it not through luck or shortcuts, but through the steady, undeniable force of a life lived by law. The same laws that work for them will work for you if you obey them. The keys are in your hands. Now go unlock the life you were meant to live.